Have you ever stopped to question why certain people seem to learn at an unreal speed? The kind of person who picks up a guitar and 6 months later is playing pieces most people struggle with for years. Or the one who absorbs a new language in a few months while everyone else quits before the year is over. We usually explain it away. Talent, genetics, a natural gift. Good luck. But that explanation is wrong. What's really happening is this. There is a method. A process that compresses the learning curve and allows mastery to happen far faster than most people believe possible. More than 400 years ago, the elite warriors of ancient warrior cultures had already decoded this system. They didn't call it a productivity hack. They didn't label it science. They called it structured skill progression, beginner's mindset, automatic mastery. Three principles that turned ordinary men into extraordinary masters. Principles that, when applied today, can allow you to develop any skill with almost unsettling speed. And let me be clear, this is not motivation talk. This is not self-help. This is a learning framework so precise, so effective, that it was refined over generations by warriors, Zen monks, and master artisans. A system so powerful that modern neuroscience has now confirmed what they knew intuitively. That's what we're exploring in this video. But before we go further, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, and write it in the comments, what do you want to master in the next 6 months? A new skill, a new career, a creative project, anything. And if this kind of content resonates with you, support the channel. Like the video, hit the hype button. It genuinely helps this message reach people who need it. Thank you to everyone who continues to be here and support this work. Now, back to the core. Chapter 1. Beginner's Mindset. The Beginner's Mind. We start with the most uncomfortable principle of all. Beginner's Mindset. If you've been here for a while, you know I've talked about beginner's mindset before. But this time, we're integrating it with ancient warrior philosophies to unlock accelerated learning at a deeper level. And there is no other place to begin. Beginner's mindset is the foundation. Everything rests on it. The word literally means beginner's mind. And at first, it sounds almost insulting. Like, what, I'm supposed to pretend I know nothing? No, it's the opposite. Beginner's mindset is the discipline of clearing the mind of assumptions, of stripping away ego, of silencing that inner voice that whispers, I already know this. You felt it before. You start learning something new, and your brain keeps comparing it to what you already understand. So you skip steps, you ignore details, you rush. And later you realize you never truly learned it. That is the absence of beginner's mindset. The elite warriors believed the greatest obstacle to mastery was not ignorance. It was the illusion of knowledge. Let me show you what they meant. 16th century warrior culture. A young warrior arrives at the training environment of a legendary swordmaster. He's trained for 3 years. He's won duels. He walks in confident. The master looks at him and says, "Forget everything you think you know. You know nothing." The student is offended. "What do you mean? I've won 7 duels." The master answers calmly. "You won despite your technique, not because of it. You fight with the arrogance of someone who believes they already understand. That arrogance will get you eliminated." Then the master does something unexpected. He makes the student hold the sword as if it's the first time in his life. Basic stance, simple grip, foundational movement. Nothing advanced. The young warrior spends weeks doing only this, feeling the weight, understanding balance, breathing with the blade. Did it feel pointless? Absolutely. But 2 years later, he became one of the master's most lethal disciples. Why? Because he learned through beginner's mindset. An empty mind, no ego, no shortcuts. Now bring this into your life. Want to learn programming? Don't rush past the fundamentals just because you know how to use a computer. Want to learn guitar? Don't ignore posture and hand position just because you can strum a few chords. Beginner's mindset means accepting that, in this moment, you are a beginner. And beginners aren't embarrassed to ask obvious questions. They're not afraid to move slowly. They don't skip the foundation. When you truly embrace beginner's mindset, something powerful happens. You learn faster, not slower, because you're not unlearning bad habits. You're not fighting your own ego. You're simply absorbing. It's like wiping a hard drive clean before installing new software. The system runs smoother. The installation finishes faster. You might be thinking, you promised speed, and now you're telling me to spend weeks on basics. Exactly, because this is where most people fail. They think they've mastered something. Then, at a critical moment, they realize they never did. So they're forced to go back and relearn what should have been solid from the start. How many professionals do you know who barely understand the fundamentals of their own field? Beginner's mindset cuts this problem off at the root. And this isn't mysticism. There's real science behind it. Neuroscience calls this optimized neuroplasticity. When you enter learning mode without resistance, without the thought, I already know this, the brain forms stronger, faster neural connections. Research has shown that people who believe they can always learn more, who don't cling to past knowledge, learn dramatically faster than those with rigid, fixed beliefs, up to 40% faster. That is the power of beginner's mindset. And this is only the beginning. Beginner's mindset isn't mysticism. It's neuroscience, wrapped in the language of elite warriors. But beginner's mindset alone isn't enough, because there's a difference between being open to learning and knowing how to learn correctly. That's where the second principle enters. Chapter 2, Structured Skill Progression, the progressive structure of learning. Structured skill progression is the map, the compass, the operating system behind elite mastery. And it unfolds in 3 stages: copy, obey, copy, adapt, break, question, adapt, create, transcend, create, innovate. It sounds simple, but this is exactly where most people fail, right at the beginning. And that's why something that could take months ends up taking years. Let me break it down. Copy, obey. This is the phase of pure imitation. No questioning, no modifying, no personal tweaks. Not, I prefer doing it this way. Not, this feels more natural to me. No, you find a master or a proven system and you replicate it exactly. The elite warriors were ruthless about this. When a young warrior entered a training environment, he didn't innovate, he didn't express himself. He spent years copying the master's movements, drill after drill. No variation, no creativity. Is it boring? Yes. Is it restrictive? Absolutely. And that's precisely why it works. Because in the copy phase, you don't know enough to improvise. Any change you make is driven by ignorance, not insight. Think about a child learning to speak. The child doesn't invent grammar. It repeats. Mom, Dad, water. Sounds become words. Words become sentences. Sentences become thoughts. That's copy. Pure imitation. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people skip this stage. They want to inject personality from day one. They want to do it their way. So they spin in circles for years, sometimes decades. Now we move to the second stage. Adapt. Break. This is where questions finally begin. But only after the fundamentals are mastered, not understood casually, not vaguely familiar, truly embodied. Adapt is where you test variations. You adapt, you explore. What if I try it this way? What happens if I change this element? The elite warriors only entered Adapt after years of disciplined repetition, because they knew something essential. You can't break rules you don't fully understand. Think of a legendary martial artist. For years, he trained Wing Chun exactly as taught. Every stance, every movement, every rule. Only later did he begin to question. Why always this posture? Why not combine high kicks with low strikes? Why not adapt techniques to real combat? And through that questioning, he created Jeet Kune Do, a new system, born only because he had first mastered the old one. That is adapt. And then there is the final stage: create, transcend. This is where the system disappears, not because you reject it, but because you become it. You no longer think. You no longer recall rules. You act. This is where a master strategist arrived. He no longer fought with techniques. He fought like breathing, instinctive, fluid, effortless. But he only reached that level because he honored copy and adapt first. In the Book of Five Creatings, a master strategist admits something most people miss. He realized his earlier victories didn't come from true mastery of strategy. So he began again, morning and night, relentlessly. And do you know when he said he finally mastered the path of strategy? At 50 years old. From then on, he wrote, I trained day and night to seek the deep principle. And naturally, I arrived. Most people want to start at create. They want to be original immediately, creative instantly, unique from day one. And because of that, they never move forward at all. Now, let's make this practical. Want to learn graphic design? Copy. Copy designs you admire, pixel by pixel, color by color. No invention. Adapt. Mix styles, test combinations, fonts, palettes. Create. Your work becomes recognizable. People know it's yours without seeing your name. Want to learn writing? Copy. Copy the structure of writers you respect. Adapt. Experiment with rhythm, voice, tone. Create. You write in a way only you can. But here's the truth no one tells you. Most people never reach create. And that's okay. Because even in adapt, breaking and adapting, you're already ahead of 90% of people. The difference is simple. You didn't skip steps. You built the foundation. And one more thing. Learning through copying is not about plagiarism. It's not about stealing and reselling. It's about understanding how something works at a deep level, so you can eventually transform it into something new. Only after passing through these stages does true mastery become possible. Which brings us to the final piece. Chapter 3, Automatic Mastery, Automation and Mastery. You have the mindset, beginner's mindset. You have the structure, structured skill progression. But one element is still missing, the last key, automatic mastery. Automatic mastery means no mind, or more accurately, a mind without interference. I've spoken about this before on the channel, and remember what I said earlier in this video. Keep your mind open. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you've already mastered this just because you've heard the word before. Automatic mastery is the state where action happens without thought. It's when a skill becomes so natural, so ingrained, that conscious thinking only slows you down. Think about typing on a keyboard. You don't look at the keys. You don't think, now A, now S, now D. Your fingers already know. That's automatic mastery. Or think about driving home. You arrive and suddenly realize you don't remember every turn. Your body handled it. Your mind was silent. That's automatic mastery. For the elite warriors, this was the highest level of mastery. The moment the sword stopped being a tool and became part of the body. There was no decision to attack, no calculation to defend. There was only action. And in that state, you are faster, sharper, more precise. Why? Because conscious thought is slow. Here's what happens in the brain. When you're learning something new, the prefrontal cortex is fully engaged. This is the part responsible for analysis, logic, decision-making. Every step requires effort. Every movement is deliberate. But with repetition, the brain shifts the workload. Tasks are handed over to the cerebellum and basal ganglia, areas responsible for automatic action.
It's as if the brain says, I've got this now. I don't need to think about it anymore.
And the moment that happens, you enter automatic mastery. World-class musicians talk about it. Elite athletes describe it. Surgeons, programmers, artists all point to the same experience. That moment when you disappear, when there's no observer, no inner voice. The action simply flows through you. The elite warriors called this effortless action. Modern psychology calls it the flow state. The label doesn't matter. What matters is this: automatic mastery is real, and it's the ultimate destination of any serious learning process. But here's the paradox: you can't force automatic mastery. The harder you try to enter flow, the more trapped you become in your own head. Automatic mastery is not something you chase, it's something that emerges. Beginner's mindset prepares the mind. Structured skill progression builds the structure. Automatic mastery is the consequence of doing the first two correctly. Think about it like this. You don't decide to enter automatic mastery while playing guitar. You practice, correctly, consistently, humbly, until one day, in the middle of a song, you realize, I'm not thinking. My hands just know. That realization, that's automatic mastery. And the only path to it is conscious repetition that eventually becomes unconscious mastery. The elite warriors practice drills, specific movement sequences, thousands of times. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because they understood something most people still ignore. Repetition is what converts effort into instinct. And there's an important distinction here. Automatic mastery is not mental laziness. It's not turning the brain off. It's the brain functioning so efficiently that it appears silent. Maximum performance, minimum friction. And here's what makes these principles even more powerful. They weren't designed for faster learning. They were designed for staying in the game. In ancient warrior cultures, failure wasn't theoretical. If you didn't master the sword fast enough, there was no recovery. No second attempts, no retries, no tomorrow. You learned, or you were removed from the system. That pressure forced the elite warriors to create the most efficient learning system in human history, a system that, 400 years later, you can use to master anything. Programming, music, languages, writing, design, business, anything. And the advantage you have? You don't need a life or irreversible failure critical challenge to apply it. You just need to take it seriously. So let's bring it all together. If you want to master any skill at a terrifying speed, you need three things. First, beginner's mindset. The beginner's mind. Empty the ego, accept that you don't know, and absorb everything. Second, structured skill progression. The structure. Copy first, adapt second, innovate last. Third, automatic mastery. Automation. Practice until the skill becomes instinct, until thinking is no longer required. This isn't a magic shortcut, it's a system. And systems only work when you follow the sequence. The elite warriors didn't become masters because of talent.
They became masters because they trusted a process refined over generations. Now you know that process. The real question is, will you use it? Or will you keep skipping steps, chasing quick results, and wondering why progress feels slow? Because the truth is simple. Talent doesn't exist. Method does. And now, you have the method. If you've stayed until the end, that already sets you apart. It shows you take growth seriously. And if you want to go deeper into learning itself, because this topic goes far beyond a single video, watch the next one appearing on your screen now. There, I break down additional techniques that build on everything you've learned here. Thank you for watching to the end. That discipline matters. And remember, it's not about being the fastest. It's about being the most consistent. The elite warriors understood that. Now you do too. Stay strong. Until the next video.